Hey Tribe, today we're going to talk about the hands. We're going to show you how to release a little bit of tension into those forearms, as well as how to break up any adhesions that are happening in the hand. In general, our hand is attached to a phone the entire time, which is creating a lot of tension into the flexors of the forearm. So one way that I always like to look to see how tense someone's hand is I look what's happening with their fingers in a very passive state. So if the fingers are perfectly straight out, we usually have a good balance between the extensor digitorum and the flexor digitorum, which is going to be your flexor and extensor of the wrist. And in general, because our hands are just slightly curved in here like this, we have more tension on the flexor digitorum, which these muscles are being shortened because you use a lot of strength, a lot of barbell, a lot of pull-ups, which is going to make your hand stronger in this position than in this position. So these might be a little bit weaker and they're longer because we always have a balance between the muscles here and here. So these are shorter and stronger. They're pulling those fingers in. These are weaker and longer, so we need to try and create that balance, okay? One thing that I always like to do initially is starting off with the hand. Within the hand, especially around all the meat of the thumb and the palm right around here, we have a lot of these adhesions that form that are really deep right around the muscle right next to the bone. So one way that we can break those up, I'm going to have Nadine try this too, is we're going to start off by just kind of creating tension and then pushing down pretty hard and working the way either up on the outside or on the inside of the thumb and pushing here. If you start pushing on the hand and just working that back and forth, you might feel these little bumps. You might feel what sounds like popcorn underneath, almost popping. And what that is that's the adhesion that's happening in our hand. And if we have that adhesion, it's going to kind of work a little bit like glue and get our hand to be stuck in one position. So if we could break that up by creating just pressure and going over those areas that we find have that like popping or that crunching, and we go over them a lot, we can break those adhesions up. And what's going to happen is the hand is going to be starting like this. We break it up, and now when you bring the hand for display, showing it out, the hand's going to be a lot flatter overall. So one way to start is to break up the adhesions that are into the hand. After we attack the adhesions of the hand, we want to attack the adhesions of the wrist. So I'm going to have Nadine kind of pull her sleeve up a little bit, and we're going to kind of do this together. One thing that we can start off with is just putting your thumb right past that wrist, and I'm creating a little bit of tension. So I'm pulling that down a little bit. I'm going to continue to pull my hand with tension on the skin in this direction as this hand is extending. So I'm almost pushing on the muscle and also trying to lengthen it. Once I get to my end range of motion, this thumb stays where it is with pressure. This resets, and every time that I work my hand back, I'm going to move my thumb up. Stop, hold the thumb, reset the hand. And then what we can do is just work this all the way up. What you might want to find is that you're going to go in the flow of your muscle bellies. And you can kind of just work it like this. This is a good example of what I do in real time and just working it all the way up. Not only can we work down here, but we could also work on the top side as well too. Grab anywhere. You can go on the top if you want. This is a good way to do it. Or what we can do is just kind of work around this entire muscle belly. So we just bring the hand up, and then we can even create circles. So really, there's plenty of different methods of the way to attack this to kind of free it up. We have a lot of muscles of that forearm. But in general, just kind of holding and pushing and pulling on that muscle is going to break up any adhesions that are happening within that forearm as well too. And when in doubt, we can just grab onto the entire muscle, and then we can just work on circles. So if we do get tension that sits up here, golfer's elbow or tennis elbow, sometimes there's an imbalance between the front side and the back side of the muscles of the forearm. So it's a good way that we can actually just break up any adhesions, create freedom, and build a little more range of motion out of that hand. Once we break up those adhesions, we want to try and put that hand or the forearm and put those muscles into play to make sure that they are free and we can get them moving. Right, now that we're on the ground, we're going to start spreading the fingers. Once again, when we're holding our phones, the hand is very close gripped, and this thumb especially doesn't get as much love as we want. So when we put our hands on the ground, whether we are doing a push-up, whether we're doing a plank, what we want to focus on is exactly what Nadine's doing, is spreading her fingers. What I also like to do is just grab that thumb and bring that down. And what she's going to feel is a good stretch in here and a little bit more activation coming up the bicep with this thumb too. So this elbow, if we have tight thumbs, sometimes we're going to think that we're locked out and we still have a little bit of a bend. It might even feel that we're in a locked out position, but we have a little bit of bend. If we drag that thumb out and then we extend those arms, she's even creating a little bit of rotation. I like that because that rotation is going to tell you that you're fully extended and now we're going all the way up into that shoulder. So that's really good. Focusing on that elbow being locked out, the hands spread and the thumbs down. And the thing that we're just going to do is shift this entire body weight slightly forward, which is going to stretch out all the flexor digitorum into the forearm, and then we can hang out there. What she's also doing is creating a little bit of tension in the fingertips, so she's grabbing the ground as well as the pads underneath or in the palm of the hand are all going to be touching down. So she has the palm down, she has just below the fingers down, and she has the fingertips down. The space in between the fingertips is slightly up, and she should be feeling a lot of muscles working in that forearm. After we get done, we can constantly kind of shift forward and back, hold it if you like. When we get done with that, we're just going to rotate those hands around. Do that same thing, kick the thumbs out. Now this time we're going to try and sink backwards into that and get a good stretch into this flexor digitorum, which is usually what's going to be tight into that into the forearms in general. Now maybe you do a lot of work in this position, and we have the extensor digitorum that are really tight. One way to stretch that out is to take those palms up, and we're going to put the palms up, and we're going to put the tops of the hands down. Now when we do this, I like to have them closer to the body. This will help me fully extend this elbow, and then in general, I'm trying to sit my body back as well too. We don't have to put a ton of pressure on here, especially if we're new to this. It might be very sensitive. We might not be able to take a lot of load. And if that's the case, that's just kind of highlighting a little bit more about the lack of movement that we have in the extensor digitorum, as well as the strength of it. If those muscles are long, they're going to be weak, and therefore if we're trying to put your body weight onto it, it's going to be very sensitive around the wrists. So there's nothing wrong with this. Just make sure that we're fully extending that elbow and kind of shifting back. And then finally, we could always bulldog our hands. So when we first put them down, we rotated them this way. Now what we're going to do is we're going to rotate in what we call the bulldog way, because it kind of gives you a little bit more of those bulldog arms, just so we're getting that rotation in there too. And then we're also trying to just straighten those arms. We should feel a good stretch into that wrist, getting that supination and pronation. Supination is this way, like soup hands, like I'm holding soup, supination, and then pronation. Most of their gym life is spent in pronation, and that's why we get a lot of that irritation, because we're on a barbell and always holding stuff in this position. That's why changing it up with a kettlebell, a dumbbell, a slam ball, doing chin-ups, rotating that grip around is so important to the body, and we can come up off there. But either way, try these stretches out, kind of break up the adhesions in the hand, work the forearm, and get on the ground and do these. Let us know what you guys think. As always, if you enjoy our videos, feel free to like and subscribe to them. And if you have any comments or videos you want us to see us do, please let us know in the comments and we'll put them out there for you. Have a good one, tribe. We'll see you next week.